if you're going through an awakening, here are the top 5 things that I've learned that may help you along your journey. So, number one for me is I was awakened through meeting a twin flame. So, I ended up spending a lot of time and energy focused on this other person instead of myself. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges for people that are on the twin flame journey is that once you encounter such an intense reaction, you just want to spend all your time thinking about them, understanding connection, and focused on that. And I completely understand. For me, I had so many dreams with my twin flame, and I would just sit there and obsessively try to understand what was this dream meaning compared to this one and that one, and trying to understand our connection. So, having been on the journey for over a decade now, I will say that I'm really glad that part of the journey is over because I remember just how much mental energy that I spent going through trying to understand, and honestly, it was very exhausting. So, I completely empathize with anybody that's on the twin flame journey because it is very challenging. But what I would say is, I know it's hard, but to try to focus on yourself. Just understand that they are there to trigger your awakening and that you need to work on yourself so that you're balanced within, so that you can either come in union or meet another person on your path. And then the second thing that I think was the most important thing for me along when I was waking up was understanding the concept of energy. So before I had no idea about the concept of energy other than I'm tired, go get a cup of coffee or, a Coke or whatever to try to wake you up. That was kind of my understanding of energy. So once I was along the path and started understanding more about the concept of energy, what impacts your energy, what kind of things lift you up, what kind of things lower your energy, and just all the different things that can impact your energy on a day-to-day level. I think that was one of the biggest things for me, and I still work on practicing energy clearing and protection, and I think that is one of the biggest things that you can understand and learn, especially for people that are sensitive to energy. And the other thing that I think was the biggest growth for me, number 3, is boundaries. Now, when you start along the awakening journey, what ends up happening is it becomes a process where you start learning more about yourself. And a lot of that just involves personal self growth. I mean, you start to wake up and you start to realize there's more to life, and you naturally start to look inward at yourself and your life circumstances as well. And I can't remember exactly where in the journey this concept came up, but I remember just kind of being surprised. Like, I had no idea of this concept, and I think most people, unless you have parents that are very self aware, are not aware of the concept of boundaries either. And why this is important is because we are our own person. And I think, we've grown up with this concept of, you just kind of go through life and deal with things as they come about, and you don't understand the concept of boundaries. And boundaries are basically how people treat you and how you allow them to treat you. And there's all sorts of different ways that this can come up. So this can be something as simple as feeling uncomfortable talking about a certain topic. And, maybe you've always just kind of put up with it, but, maybe it does make you feel not really good or uncomfortable. So you could say, I don't want to talk about that. Can we refrain from talking about that? That's just, one easy example. But it can go into all sorts of different things. Maybe somebody calls you 10 times a day, there's all different ways, but it basically is up to you. You are the one that says, this is how I want to be treated, and then you assert those boundaries with other people. Now, this again is a work in progress for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, because especially if you've spent the majority of your life not having boundaries and then all of a sudden you try to assert them, it can be challenging. So it's something that, I work on, and I'm sure a lot of other people work on, trying to educate the people around you during your awakening as you learn more about these concepts and self-growth. And the fourth thing that I learned during the awakening process is how important it really is to just focus on yourself and not anyone else. So, this is more about understanding broadly that you are here on your own journey, and what everybody else in the world is doing is their own journey as well. So, really, it doesn't make sense for us to spend our time thinking or trying to understand what other people are doing, or feeling judgmental or critical, or really having any kind of attachment to what other people are doing in their lives, because each soul has their own journey. They're here to learn their own lessons, and we're here to learn our own lessons. And so really, when you understand that, it really kind of takes the burden kind of off of you, so that you understand that this is just something that takes away from your own internal energy. It isn't something that you need to spend your own personal time on. And then the last one is the concept of sovereignty. So this probably isn't a word that you may have heard yet, unless you've been on the journey for a while. But the concept of sovereignty is really that you are a divine co-creator of God. And so when you start to understand that basically you are an aspect of God, we all are, and that, before you start to wake up, you realize that there are all these different control systems in place that maybe you just accepted how it was, or maybe you didn't even know that that was it. But once you start to realize about this, that you can say, you know what, I'm a sovereign being, I'm not going to be a part of that system, or now that I'm aware of it, I can step out of it. And this can go into, all sorts of different areas of our lives. But basically, once you are awake and aware, you have choices as to whether or not you're going to participate in some of these kind of control systems. And so I think the basic thing is that you are aware of your own sovereignty, and you're not like being buffeted around by the world, that you are the one that creates your reality. So those are the top 5 things that I've learned. I hope this helps. Make sure to subscribe for more videos on spiritual awakening topics. Thanks.